Greetings, everybody. I hope everyone had a fantastic 4th of July weekend. And I apologize for only uploading one video last week as I was participating in the festivities myself. I just wanted to take a second to make everybody aware that I'm now being sponsored by W Pre-Workout. So if you want to try some amazing flavors of pre-workout supplements, shaker bottles, or just merchandise in general, then use the code KEEPER12, linked below in the description, to get a discount. And I believe I've spoke too much, so let's dive on in. There comes a point with every addict, a moment of clarity where we're forced to face the fact that we truly have a problem. Some are fortunate enough to look down the track to see the train coming from a mile away and step aside long before it arrives. And then there are people like me who wake up to a tree trunk smashing through their windshield. I've been sitting in a parking garage not long before, waiting for DD, was my dealer, and a bit of a sadist. When I say that, I mean that he always kept me waiting just a little too long. I guess that's one of the perks of being a heroin dealer. Your customers will always come back to you no matter how punctual you are. I rocked back and forth anxiously, trying to ignore the chills racking my body and aching my bones that felt like they had just turned to glass. With every minute that passed, I cursed him under my breath. When he finally arrived, he opened the passenger door, tossed a few balloons in, and grabbed the bills that were waiting for him on the seat. That was it. No greeting, no eye contact. When you're a junkie, you get used to these types of interactions, and after a while, you even start to prefer them. There's a type of honesty to it that you won't find anywhere else. They give you poison to put in your body, and you pay them for that privilege. It's just that simple. Now, the problem came when I didn't have the willpower to make it home. I needed to get well right then and there, so I snorted a few lines off the dashboard. Those first few moments were everything. Instant warmth spread through my bones. This was a good batch. A particularly good batch. Okay. One more, then home. And that's how I nodded off behind the wheel. It was a miracle that I walked away from my totaled vehicle with only minor cuts and bruises. I was lucky to be alive. I was even luckier that I hadn't killed anyone. Then came the legal aspect. My hearing was set for 8 months out, and in the meantime my conditions required me to attend substance abuse classes. My case manager assured me that if I kept on the straight and narrow, the judge would look on me more leniently. It was possible the whole thing could get thrown out if I put the effort in. Think of this as an opportunity. You have the potential to turn your life around. Make it count, okay? I took that advice to heart. I spent a month in rehab and gave it my all. After the withdrawals tapered off and the fog began to clear, I started to feel something that resembled optimism. I could do this. I could win this battle. I left that facility with my 30-day chip and a fresh perspective. In the aftermath of the accident, one of the most profound moments came when I returned to my apartment. I barely had anything to my name. A burner phone, a mattress on the floor, no TV, a chair. That was all. I'd lost my job months ago, and truthfully, it'd been long overdue. After that, I began pawning just about everything I owned, and then borrowing money from my twin sister. Kara was the one who paid my bill. She was the only member of my family who still answered my calls. I really hadn't kept up with her life in the last few years. I'd been too preoccupied ruining my own, but she was always there for me. I think she had an idea that I was going downhill, but until that tearful phone call from the jail, I don't think she understood the depths I had plunged to. She had arrived within an hour to bail me out, though there's still a 12-hour mandatory hold on me. So I didn't get to see her. I didn't get to thank her. The first day back home, I desperately needed to hear her voice. I was already feeling that familiar itch in the back of my mind, that self-destructive tendency stirring somewhere. I dialed her number hastily. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. Fuck. I tried again. Voicemail again. Fuck! I tossed my phone on the mattress and paced the room. Okay, deep breaths. Find your center. Acknowledge your feelings. And let them pass. Yeah. All that crap is great when you're in a controlled environment, but when you're out in the wild, what good was it doing me? I stared at my phone for a while. I still had my contacts. D will front me. Yeah. I can figure out how to pay him tomorrow. It wouldn't be that hard to... Thankfully, my phone started vibrating, sending me out of jumbled thoughts. Kara was returning my phone call. Hey, I answered, out of breath. Pete, how are you? I explained that I had just gotten out of rehab. I told her that I had my 30-day chip. And then I told her how much I was already struggling. Oh, Pete, I would come to see you right now. I really, really would, but I'm right in the middle of moving. Moving? That's right. Me and Vince, we got a place together. We're packing as we speak. I didn't want to admit that I had completely forgotten about my sister's boyfriend. So I was forced to feign enthusiasm. Gah, what a shitty brother I was. I'd never even met the guy. Listen, Pete, things are going to be hectic for a little while on my end. Work is crazy and this move is a lot right now, but can you meet me tomorrow morning for a coffee? Maybe you can make it through tonight? I bit my cheek, trying not to sound too strained with my reply. Sure. Yes, coffee sounds good. Let's do that. So, the plan was made and we said our goodbyes. Okay, it's just one night. Then you'll see Kara, and everything will be okay. I surfed channels for a while. Nothing held my interest, but hearing people talk made me feel less alone. As the sun began to set, the television acted as a lamp, and again I began to pace my apartment. I had, of course, set out. Something about the monotony gave me a peace of mind. Walk from one corner of the kitchen tiles to the other. Take 6 steps through the living room. Turn around and retrace those steps. Soothing. Until I saw it. It caught my peripherals as I passed the television. Though I was moving, my shadow was standing still. I blinked, assuming that it had been some kind of optical illusion or a trick of the light, but no. As I passed by, it remained in place. I froze. My heart leapt to my throat, and I watched as it raised its arm. What the fuck? It wrapped something around its extended arm, drawing it tightly. I realized that I was watching it tie off a vein. No, I screamed, crumbling to the carpet. I couldn't watch anymore. I crawled forward and unplugged the television. In the absence of the glowing screen, I sat in the dark, gasping and panting. I tried to talk myself through it. It's just a trick of the mind. It's a wandering psyche mingling with a guilty conscience. Come on, you know that wasn't real. And yet, I remained in the dark until daybreak. Kara was visibly taken back when I shuffled into the coffee shop. Pete, wow, you look, Did you get any sleep last night? I nodded my head, pulling back slightly from her tight embrace. Yeah, just weird dreams, you know. We sat down and Kara asked me some questions about the rehab and my upcoming trial. I answered them as best as I could, preoccupied with keeping my eye on the shadow on the floor. She gave me a sad smile. I'm proud of you. I really am. I know how hard this must be. Thanks. Yeah, it can be tough sometimes. So, how's Vince? I asked, trying to act a way a normal person would. Fortunately, this perked her right up. She launched in a long-winded explanation of how he had been promoted at work and how this led to them deciding to look for a new place together. I nodded along and smiled at the right keywords, but most of what she said I had trouble absorbing. As like I said, things are so hectic, but Vince and I were talking the other night. I told him some of what you were going through, and he was hoping that you would come stay for a few days once we're all settled. What do you think about that? I spun my 30-day chip under the table, trying to come up with an excuse. I mean, after hearing about how fucking awesome he was for the last 15 minutes, how could I even face him? Yeah, maybe. I just have a lot going on right now, you know. I would like to meet him sometime, though, I mumbled. When she had to leave, she gave me another tight hug, making me promise to call her and check in each day. I agreed, and we went our separate ways. It didn't take long to start again once I got home. The rays from the mid-morning sun cast my shadow on the wall in front of me. It loomed over me menacingly, but for a while it mimicked my movements. I sighed in relief, wondering if I had just been letting my imagination run wild the night before. I may have even laughed aloud, but then it turned its head. It was looking straight at me. It's not real. It's not real. I shuddered, closing my eyes. I took some deep breaths, then squinted through the gaps in my fingers. No. Fuck. It was leaning forward, turning its head from side to side, almost mocking me. I let my hands drop, utterly horrified. Slowly, it tied the tourniquet around its arm like it had before. I was trapped in place, unable to stop myself from watching, and then I saw the silhouette of a syringe in its hand. It lowered it slowly, inch by inch, bringing it closer to the would-be vein. Just before it made contact, something in me broke, and I fled from the bright room. I pulled open the closet door and clambered inside, shutting it quickly. Alone in the dark, safe from my rogue shadow, I shed tears of pure terror. I could see it moving around the room, occasionally blocking the light that was shining in from under the door. I knew it was out there, waiting for me. On the second day of hiding in the closet, I awoke to my phone ringing in my pocket. I raised it to my ear, trying to clear the phlegm from my throat before I spoke. Hello? Kara's voice. Pete, is everything okay? Fuck. No, everything was not okay. I tried to find something to say to her. Well, not exactly. Pete, I think you should come here a lot. Maybe like right now? You don't sound well. Listen, I'll be there to pick you up in an hour. And that was that. Tentatively, I opened the closet door. I peered around the corner, satisfied that I didn't see my untethered shadow roaming around. By the time Kara arrived, I had managed to shave off the stubble and clean myself up a bit. She commented on my bloodshot eyes, but I assured her that I was just having trouble sleeping, so we went off to meet Vince and see his house, and she could not shut up about it. Though, once we pulled in the driveway, I could see why she was so amped about it. It was magnificent, so unlike anything we had ever grown up with, and it seemed that Kara was truly living the dream. Vince only added to that perception. He hustled out the moment we opened our doors, a towering, handsome beast of a man. His handshake just about took my arm out of its socket. Pete, welcome. I've heard a lot about you, my man. So nice to put a face to the name. I did my best not to feel envious as Kara and Vince gave me the tour, but holy hell, what a place. It was hard for me to grasp that here I was, afraid of my own shadow and recovering from sticky needles in my veins, while my twin was here, in paradise. And they showed me to the guest room to get myself settled in, and Vince told me he was going to get the fireplace going downstairs. I met him down there after dropping off my bags. I'd offer you a drink, but I'm not sure that'd be wise, he offered. How about a water on the rocks? I joked. He left for the kitchen, leaving me alone in the parlor. I was acutely aware of the dancing flames casting my shadow behind me. I turned to look at it, hoping to convince myself that everything was normal. I waved my arms and it mimicked my motion. I would have tested it more, but Kara and Vince came in, and I returned to sitting casually. We sat idly, enjoying the warmth. I began to relax as we conversed, even finding myself laughing and cracking jokes. Perhaps I just needed a change of scenery. an escape from the tortured confines of my mind in that shithole apartment. I eventually asked them how they had met, and later, sheepishly, asked for a reminder of how long they had been together. The later it got, the more at ease I became. The comfortable leather chair and the warm flames put me into a contented lull. I looked across the room at my sister and Vince holding hands between their chairs, and all felt right with the world, but then I saw it. This time it was Kara's shadow going rogue. I watched in wide-eyed horror as her shadow rose from above her. It looked frantic, like it was shouting. And then another shadow. Vince. His silhouette was also shouting. I looked back and forth between the serene scene in front of me and the ominous one taking place on the walls behind them. Vince's shadow reached forward, grabbing hers by the hair, and raised a hand. "Everything okay, Pete?" Kara asked, noticing my expression. Vince looked over with concern on his face. I glanced back at the wall, but their shadows were behaving normally again. I swallowed, nodding my head. Yeah, I'm just getting a bit tired, I think. I had to wait an agonizingly long time before I was able to speak to Kara. Once Vince left for work and it was just the two of us, I set her down at the table. I'm going to ask you something, and I want the truth," I said, taking her hands. "Has Vince ever hurt you?" She stared back at me. "Has he?" She bit her lip, fighting back tears, and I knew the answer long before she spoke. We've worked through a lot of things," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Kara, listen to me, Pete. We're working on it," she cried, rising from the table. "Kara, wait." But she left for work, slamming the door behind her, leaving me alone with a horrible realization that my sister wasn't going to talk to me about it. It was difficult not to say anything when Vince returned. With my newfound hatred for him, I tried looking past his gregarious bullshit. He was fake, a different person behind closed doors, and I wanted him to burn, to hurt him like he hurt my sister. But what could I really do? If I called him out, I'm sure he would have denied it and kicked me out of his home, and he would probably think that Kara had told me. Then who knew what might happen to her once I was gone? All I could do was wait for another opportunity to talk to her. We had our usual fireplace gathering after dinner that night. Vince didn't seem to notice the tension between Kara and I at all. He told us his usual tall tales all the way until midnight, at which point Kara said she had a busy day in the morning and she wished us good night. "Well, I don't. I took the day off tomorrow," he announced, pulling himself from the chair. "More water, Pete? I could use another whiskey." I shook my head and he shrugged. I checked on my shadow once he was out of the room. Still moved like it was attached to me, following my every move. I knew that Vince wouldn't last long after his next drink. His words slowed and he slumped into his chair, barely keeping his eyes open. At long last he excused himself for the night. Knowing that I would be unable to sleep, I placed another log on the fire. My shadow waved at me out of the corner of my eye, drawing my attention to it. It curled a finger at me, beckoning me to follow. I gave a dry laugh, so used to it moving on its own accord that it hardly fazed me at that point. It slunk down the hall, looking back to make sure that I was following. The faint flicker from the fire illuminated the last door on the right, Vince's office. My shadow pointed to the door, miming for me to turn the handle. What did I have to lose? It floated along the ceiling, hovering above Vince's desk. With shaking hands, I opened the drawer it motioned to. The night passed painfully slow. I was up before dawn, silently sitting at the edge of my bed. I watched the sun rise over the trees, their shadows spread across the ground larger than life. I listened to the floorboards creak as Kara walked down the hall to get ready for her day. Eventually, I heard her exit through the garage, and I still waited, biding my time. My shadow kept me company, kept me focused. I just had to be patient now. Dusk arrived without my knowledge. One moment the sun was high, the next it was sinking. My shadow signaled to me that it was time. I descended the stairs and found Vince sitting on the couch. My ears were ringing as I stepped toward him. He looked up at me as I approached. "Oh, hey. I wasn't sure if you were here or not. You've been quiet all day." His smile faltered when he saw the murderous expression on my face. Pete, are you feeling all right?" Background noise. Unimportant words continued spewing out of his fucking mouth. He trailed off when he saw what was pointed at him. "Pete?" he gasped, raising his hands. What's this about, man? Just relax and put the gun down, okay?" I continued moving toward him. "Just think about what you're doing, alright? Hey, put it down. Think of your sister." He couldn't have picked a less persuasive argument. I waved his revolver at him, taking a few steps closer. "Think about my sister," I bellowed. "I am thinking about her, Vince. Thinking about how you treat her. Thinking about how you fucking hurt her." His eyes met mine, streaming with tears. "Pete, please, I'm sorry. Please, don't do this," he begged. He slumped forward, looking up at me, desperately mumbling incoherent half-apologies. Pete, please, I promise, this will never happen again." I had my doubts. I bit down, steeling myself. No time to linger. Vince followed my stare to the wall, his eyes going wide as he watched my shadow and I place the barrel to his head. Our movement back in sync once more. I drew a deep breath, and I put my finger on the trigger. There is an ending to this story, though it may not be the one you wanted or expected to hear. Oftentimes, stories are written to tie everything neatly together at the end to provide closure, but that's just not how life works. Sometimes there are no endings. Sometimes it just goes on. I'll start by saying that I didn't kill Vince. I couldn't. Instead, I broke down. I completely fell apart. He didn't call the cops, and he didn't retaliate in any way. He didn't even tell Kara about what had happened. Once I put the gun down, we just sat there, sobbing. He told me he would make good on his promise. He swore he would never raise a hand to Kara again. But do I believe that Vince is truly capable of changing? Honestly, I don't know. I still talk to Kara every day, and she seems happy. I just have to hope that she would tell me if Vince ever goes back on his word. For siblings who shared a womb together, we seem to have a particularly bad habit of keeping secrets from each other. As for me, I recently received my 90-day chip. I still have my hearings in a few months, and I still don't know how they will turn out, but all I can do is take it in stride. My shadow beside me every step of the way. It's funny just how little I thought about our shadows before all this. On the day we're born, it becomes our constant companion. It sees everything we do in this life. It knows more about us than anyone else. Before all this, I never wondered if our darkest secrets would also cast shadows if brought to light. But if there's anything I've learned, it's this. When we come face to face with the worst of what we're capable of, we still have a choice over our actions.